everyone, and welcome back to another video. My name is Tatiana, also known as your awkward gamer, and today I'm going to talk about how to get better tracking in Animaze, because getting the best tracking settings actually does not have everything to do with the tracking sliders in Animaze. But before I jump into that, a quick disclaimer. If you're planning on watching this video and getting a specific, number to type in or a specific place to put your slider to get the best settings, this video is not going to give you that, because every individual physically moves different from each other. We all have different lighting, we all have different setups, different ways of sitting in our chair can even be a factor into changing your slider trackers in Animaze. So, showing you my settings in Animaze will not help you get the best tracking for your individual needs. A lot of people DM me and comment under videos asking for this, and unfortunately copying me won't help you get the best results for yourself. So with that being said, what I will give you in this video are some tips and recommendations based on what I've noticed in the past couple months using Animaze to help you get the best tracking you can, because like I said, it's not solely the tracker sliders in Animaze that could be hindering you from getting better results. So what we will cover in this video is over-exaggerating facial expressions, reading slider tracker information and recording results, lip sync offset for live streams and or post-production editing, physical camera and the placement of your camera, physical lighting and the placement of your lighting, and trial and error along with some patience. Because trust me, you're going to need patience. This is going to take time. It's not going to be a quick thing to set up for you to get the best results for yourself. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. I hope it helps you out. I hope that it is what you guys need, because I know a lot of you have been struggling. I've learned over the past couple months, it took me some time to learn this, and I was super new to using Animaze when I first made those two videos about it, but now I kind of have a better idea of what does and doesn't work for myself, so I'm going to share that with you. I hope you enjoy the video. I hope it helps you out, and without further ado, let's jump into it. First on the list is over-exaggerating facial expressions. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean literally over-exaggerating your facial expressions. For example, right now I'm making faces and my mouth is opening much wider than I would when I'm normally speaking. I'm actually even speaking at a much louder tone, so louder volume, not tone, louder volume, so more people in my house can actually hear me when I'm recording because I'm being so over-exaggerated. I wouldn't talk to a person this way in real life because my eyes would be going everywhere, my mouth would be opening very wide. It would look kind of strange, it wouldn't look very natural. But when we're talking about your movements going through Animaze onto the screen for the viewers, this looks more natural. It doesn't look as strange, but I am over-exaggerating. Watch what happens when I stop over-exaggerating. I'm now going to talk at a lower tone, the way I would normally if I was talking like in a voice call or talking to a person in real life. I'll stop over-exaggerating my movements. Now, this is me now talking like I normally would. This is me kind of just speaking at a normal tone. I actually often speak at this tone when I'm very invested in a game. So if I'm looking to the side and I'm reacting to something, sometimes I start doing this and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I really like that. But you can see the mouth is tracking, but not very well. It's not like a very spot on like tracking, if that makes any sense. Over-exaggerating your face helps a lot for the tracking. I find it just picks it up better. So now I'm going to over-exaggerate again. It was really hard to not, because I've trained myself to be very overly expressional. And the way you can think about this, if this helps, if you're not really understanding, is think about Sesame Street puppets. Those puppets are over-exaggerating all their movements, so it's really easy and readable to the audience, especially to children who it's targeted towards. It's really easy for them to understand, oh, Elmo is sad, or Cookie Monster didn't like that, because of how their movements are. VTubing is like controlling puppets. You're controlling a digital puppet, and you want it to try and mimic your movement as best you can. And so one really good way that I found that it tracks my movements really well is when I'm over-exaggerating. Now, it's not a huge over-exaggeration, but it's definitely enough so that it's very readable on screen. And the way I got to do this, and that you're going to see this be a very big trend through all these points, is opening OBS like I showed in the first video, kind of talking about Animaze, how to set it up. So watch that if you don't know how to set it up, but just open up OBS and record yourself. Record yourself speaking normally, talking normally, doing things like that. See how it looks, see if it doesn't look good, and then try another one doing a little bit more of an over-exaggeration, a little more of acting, a little melodramatic. Even move your hands if it helps. Even if you don't have hand tracking, I move my hands naturally, so that actually helps a little bit. But over-exaggerating, I find, helps out a lot. Not necessarily your head movements, because that's going to hurt your neck. I'm talking more about your facial expressions specifically, over exaggerating them. Like if you want to really frown in real life, right? When you're VTubing, you're playing a bit of a character. You know, Tatiana is not necessarily exactly like me. We're very similar, but Tatiana is definitely very over exaggerated, very excited, very happy to be here, and I'm, you know, in ways like that, but much more toned down than the way Tatiana is shown. Sometimes it's very natural. My expressions are very big in real life, but they're a little bigger when I'm being Tatiana. So keep that in mind, that you are playing, to whatever degree you're playing a role, you are playing a role and acting and entertaining when you are being a VTuber in any videos that you're being in, like whatever type of videos, I mean. So let's go ahead and jump into the second thing. That's the first thing I found that really helped out, was to over exaggerate. This could be fixed by moving your sliders a little more overly exaggerated, but I found I couldn't, when I made them, you know, be a little more exaggerated, it wasn't working. So like the way I wanted it to. So I found just overacting, which I took a lot of acting in school, so I was able to do it pretty easily. So for me, this works. But if you're uncomfortable doing it, then you will have to rely a little harder on sliders, which can be finicky. So that's up to you. It'll take more time if you do that. But let's jump into sliders. Let's jump into read sliders, tracking information, and recording your results. Okay, I've recorded this a few times. I get kind of rambly. I'm going to try and condense this information as much as I can. So when I'm talking about reading sliders, tracker information, and recording yourself, what I mean is read what a slider does, make an adjustment, and then record yourself. Record yourself talking like you would to your video or to your stream. Even fake laugh, like haha, like laugh like you would. I would sit and talk to myself for about a minute to a minute and a half, doing different movements, from turning different ways, moving my eyes and mouth, talking like I would, being over exaggerated, like I mentioned, because I just found that helped the camera to see my expressions the best. All these things, record yourself, watch it over, and then make a change with a slider and record yourself again. See what it changed. See, like if you can't notice the change right away, see if you notice what the change is. Screenshot it, so if you like a way a setting was and you're going to change it, you know what you changed. Just to help yourself keep track, you can do all these things inside of the settings and the gear icon and go to advanced tracking configuration. And in here is where all your tracking configuration is going to be. For these first four, the one things I can show you, because it's not really sliders, there's things you can tick that should be on. This one is select trackers, and make sure you should use an iPhone. We're going to talk about that, but you should use an iPhone. I've tried using other devices since those videos, and they do not work that well at all. They do not work. Use the iPhone is my recommendation. But make sure this one, compile audio-based lip sync, I think that's, or complex audio. I can't see, it's on the way side of my screen. Make sure this is on for sure. They recommend that being on. And then also make sure that in audio-based lip sync, you have complex audio-based lip sync on. These two things being on made a huge difference to how my mouth looked when I was speaking and how well it was tracking my movement while I was speaking. This is recommended in all of their settings and Animaze. If you read any of their manuals and stuff, it is recommended those are on. So I turned them on. I don't think I changed too many more settings, but you go ahead, read them, get it the way you want it. Again, you can see all the information's in there, so you can read what these things do. You can even go to the little eye for more information. I'm going to show you something with the sliders that happens with the eye that you guys actually may not know. You can click on the eye and it'll give you a little graph and show you what moving certain things for sliders means. So what I do, and I know it's overwhelming, but this is what I did. I went and I clicked on these eyes if I could, or I'd read them. I'd read information. A lot of these have eyes on them, which is great. And what this means is you can click, let me find one you can click. There we go. So this one is for range and intensity. This range and intensity option is the primary thing that I changed, other than smoothing and stuff like that. And the smoothing, you got to be careful, because if it's too high, your computer might not be able to do it. I have a 3080, so that helps with absorbing it, but sometimes the CPU as well get overloaded. I have an i7-10 something, I don't know. I'll put the specs in this video so you can see. They're usually in my streaming ones, but I'll put the specs for my computer so you can at least see. But you don't necessarily need a computer like mine. You just will have to change your settings. So my computer can just handle the highest intensities and stuff like that, so yours might have to be a little lower. So just keep that in mind with these, or smoothing, sorry. But with the intensity, if you click on these, this little awesome graph pops up, and this graph is great. This graph helped me out so much to understand what I was doing. wrong when I was having some issues with the smooth, like with how much my movement is being tracked. For example, this is showing head rotation, and it shows you, and it's showing if you move these in, right, then your avatar will move way more than your head movement. So you might just be able to move like this, and your actual model's head might be doing this, you know, might be really whipping. Or if you move the two bars farther away from each other instead of close together like it shows here, you would have to move all the way, and your model is going to copy you much closer in moving all the way. So these things are very specific to how you are physically set up and how you're going to be moving and looking around, how much you move when you're speaking, because at first it wasn't moving enough. I was moving a lot and the model was just kind of moving like this. I turned it up and then the model was going everywhere and it was all over the place. So reading these, practicing, again, record yourself if you've changed it up and you're not seeing a big difference. You want to see what it looks like in practice, because sometimes just looking at yourself like this and you're just looking like you're looking in a mirror, you're like you're like doing these mouth movements, you're like, yeah, that looks good. When you go to actually move and do things naturally, it may not look good. That happened a lot to me. And the worst part is, you know, I was making content at the same time as making these changes. So you could tell stream to stream when I was making big changes, because sometimes the tracking and the audio and everything was just bad. And then, you know, eventually after a month, it kind of started to get better and I kind of understood a little better. But this is what I mean by it's like trial and error. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. You know, this is why I can't just give you my settings, because where I'm sitting and how much I want to move is completely different than probably what you're going to want. So starting from Animaze's base level, which is actually really good, starting from their base tracking settings and then changing things to the way you want it is going to help you. But again, remember, keep this in mind. These sliders are not 100% of how your tracking is going to look good. I would say it's like 40-40 and what 20 is that? Does that make sense? Like 40% maybe your settings, 40% your actual physical setup and where your camera and lighting is, and then the rest is your like lip sync settings, right? Like it's in all those things encompassing all those things gives you better tracking, but individually, you know, they don't have to necessarily be the best, but they have to work well together, if that makes any sense. Actually, one thing you will notice is I am always looking to the side in my videos like this, always to this side, because that's where OBS is open. I leave it open while I'm recording so I can see how things look, or see if, for example, my mic is in front of my mouth right now. I moved down in my chair, like I'm sitting up right now. If I were to like slouch down because I'm comfortable after a long time of recording and I'm doing this or streaming, you can barely see my mouth because now my microphone's too far in front of my face. So making sure I'm sitting up above my microphone, we'll talk about that in physical setup, but you know, you get what I mean. I always have it open to see. So that is also a big help with your tracking, because sometimes you might think, wow, it looks really great. And then while you record, you look back and it doesn't look good. You might have moved weird. You might have moved out of frame and you may not have even noticed. Those are also factors in making sure that everything looks good, is I'm always having this open and looking over just to make sure it's good, because anything can change. So that's what I recommend doing. Read everything, look at the eyes, click the eyes if you can, and this will pop up. Sometimes it doesn't. I think even if you press frequently asked questions right here, it takes you to the manual on the website and gives you some more information. That is what I recommend for going through these settings. And don't think you have to touch every single setting. Only touch what you think doesn't look good. If you're moving around and stuff, you're like, wow, the eyes are good, but I don't like the mouth. Work on the mouth and jaw. Right now we're in eyes. Work on mouth and tongue, jaws and cheeks. Work on that. If you're like, wow, the jaws and cheeks are good, but the lips are weird, then you'd be just working on mouth. So that's it for reading the slider tracking information, recording the results. It's trial and error. It's annoying. It takes a long time. It takes a little bit of perfectionism if you want it to be like perfect. But again, remember, it's not everything. The sliders are not everything. They're a smaller percentage of the entirety and whole of your performance that you're going to be giving out through tracking. So now we're going to move on to lip sync, offset for live streams and for or for editing and post-production. This part I'm going to show you guys OBS. If you're not familiar with it, definitely check out the first video, because I go all into OBS and everything and how to set everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and assume you already know how to do that, or you've already seen the video. And I'm going to show you the offset that I use for OBS, and I also use it for recording. I'm going to explain how I do that, but you can do it any way you want. I'm just going to show you what I do in case someone's like, I don't know how to do this at all, and you want some idea of it. It might give you an idea of how to get better lip sync. So this is what I do to make it the easiest for me and the fastest process when trying to produce content as quick as like, you know, just sometimes you want to make some processes a little easier because otherwise you're just doing these really long processes. So I'm going to drag OBS over like this, and I'm going to go ahead and actually turn on 3D model. Ignore that there shouldn't be two 3D models in here when you look, and there also shouldn't be a camera captures and this display capture. It's like this because I was in the middle of recording Stray's gameplay. I'm in the middle of the game, but a lot of people have been DMing me this week and I just don't have time to respond to everyone. I have way too much going on. So I was gonna make this video, but I've just put the time I was gonna release it up a little bit, try and get it out as soon as I can. It's gonna be a bit difficult, but I'm gonna try. So just ignore that. It's because I was in the middle of doing other stuff and I was like, let's just get this done quick. So ignore those. But what we're gonna focus on is the audio tab and the audio mixer thing here for both editing and streaming. So first, we're gonna talk about how to get your lip sync offset good for streaming. So what you're gonna wanna do is have your mic set up. I show you how to add those things. You just literally click that plus button, go to your audio capture, and then choose your microphone. And then it will be there. It'll show up like this on the side, and when I'm speaking, you can see it's capturing my audio because it's recording. You're going to want to right click on the gear and go to advanced audio properties, and then this is going to open up, and this is it's showing you all of your audio that is active currently. It shows you the decibels it's at, if they're active, left and right. Like you could, I don't know why, but if you wanted something to be more in the left ear and more in the right ear, you could do that. Just don't touch that. I recommend just leaving that. And then offset, which if we go to the top, actually, we'll see what these all mean. Oh, you can also see if it's mono. The decibels is audio percentage and everything, but sync offset is what we're looking for. You can also do audio monitoring, which if you change this, it just means you can hear the audio back through OBS into your headphones. So that's an option. And then this is the tracks it's on. So those are the things that are inside of the advanced tracking settings. But what we're going to focus on is sync offset. And we're going to actually do this so we can barely see the tracks, because what we're looking for is our audio microphone. So right here under the microphone icon, we're gonna just follow the line all the way across to the off sync, which is where this is. And I've made mine 248. I don't know what this MS means. I don't know if it's milliseconds. I think that's what it is, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, bro. Like, I'm just showing you what I did. This you can copy. Remember I said you couldn't exact copy like numbers and stuff for Animaze? That you can't, but for this you can, and see if it works. I'm not saying this is gonna 100% work, but you can start off of 248. Go ahead and do a recording. Like I said, open OBS, record yourself. If the lip sync, if the audio is off with the actual movement of your model, and you're gonna be live streaming, or even actually, you should probably actually do this even if you're gonna do video, and I'll show you why in a second. Just make sure that you have your offset set to something, because if it's at 0, it's going to be really off. So 248 was kind of where I found was best for me. You might have to change this number and then re-record yourself until it's where you want it. It took a long time for me to get this. It used to be at 190 when I was using the memojis from iPhone. I used to use those. You might actually, some of you might remember. I don't know how many of you are from back then, but I did used to have it at like 190, and then when I switched to Animaze, I had to boost it all the way up because of the off sync, or the lip sync was just way off. So play with that, but this is kind of what I put in. You can put it in and see if it helps you out. I don't know if it will. I have no idea what changes this. I just know when I switched from using one program to a different one, that had to change, and that is important. And for live streaming especially and stuff like that. So go ahead and change that, especially if you're going to do videos. You should do it because it's just going to help you make editing easier, and I'm going to show you why. So for live streaming, that's it. You're done with this part. You can go to the next one. If you're going to also be making video content, which even if you're live streaming, I recommend you do that. It just helps you grow. But making video content, you're going to want to set this up, right? But you're also gonna want to use something, well, you don't have to do this, but what I have done is use Audacity as well. So this is actually the audio you're hearing right now. You're not actually hearing OBS audio. I find for some reason, and I don't know why, but Audacity is a free program, by the way. It's absolutely free. Link will be down below. But I find Audacity, no matter what, is sounds clearer. I don't know why. Like OBS right now and Audacity are hearing the exact same thing, but I find for some reason, and I'll see if I can show you right now. If I remember, I will try to have OBS's audio and Audacity's audio, and I'll switch between it right now for you to kind of hear the difference. But to me, it sounds different. I don't know if for you it will. To me, the audio in Audacity just sounds clearer and more open and just better than OBS's audio for recording. In live streaming, it's the best you got. Your audio is going to get really compressed no matter what. So it is what it is, but for video editing and stuff, for some reason, I find this is the best. So I use this for ASMR. I use this for, because I have an ASMR channel, a gaming ASMR channel. So I use it for that. I use it for just recording regular. Any audio you hear is normally out of this. Like, it would be rare if it was ever out of that. It is always out of Audacity and not OBS. And this also helps because if you keep your audio, because you might be thinking, okay, well, Tatiana, if I'm just going to record out of Audacity, why would I also have the audio on inside of OBS? Why does the offset matter and everything for lip syncing? What you can do, at least with Premiere Pro, you should be able to do this with other free editing programs as well. But I basically take the audio track that is recorded, because inside of OBS, it'll basically put the audio and video tracks together, so they're in sync properly, right? Just like if you were to live stream from it, the sync should be perfect. So when you're speaking, your audio is coming out properly. If you take that and put it into Premiere, for example, and now your audio file and your video file are together, right, from OBS, it's a package deal. You know that the lip sync isn't off. I just take the better audio file from Audacity. I just put it underneath those two files, and I select them both and say synchronize. And you should be able to do this in other programs. If not, you can eyeball it and try and do it yourself that way, and then mute the OBS audio or get rid of it once they're like properly synced up, so that you're hearing them either at the exact same time, that's a good indication, or they're visually like overlaid perfectly. And then you're just going to want to delete the OBS audio and then keep the Audacity audio, and it's going to be synced up. It's going to sound good instead of having to try and sync it yourself manually. That's why I record the OBS audio, because then they just sync the audio link files sync together, and it's way easier for editing. It's way faster. I hope this wasn't too long. It gets ranty when I talk about things like this because, you know, my brain's all over the place, but I hope you understood. Now we're going to jump into physical camera and placement of your camera. So physical camera and camera placement. What do I mean by that? Well, your physical camera that you're going to use is important, and it's more important than I thought it was when I first started using this program. On Animaze's site, they say, hey, you can use any camera, because you can, right? You can use any camera. You can plug a webcam in. They show using a webcam, and it has some good results. It even said you could use an Android. I know when I read it, it said that, because I remember thinking, oh, my sister can have a model, because me and her were actually working on a project that we were both going to have models for, and I ended up having to reach out to Animaze and being like, hey, the Android is not working. And then they said you had to get some third-party thing to make Android track. So you can't use an Android phone. Don't use that. I think I said you could, because I said all you need is a webcam and a phone, I think, in that first video. So I think you can still use the webcam, and you'll get some okay results. But the best results, and Animaze even says this, the best results is using an iPhone. Even though for some reason I'm pretty sure this app doesn't work on a Mac. It's very strange. I think it's coming to Mac, but I don't think as of right now, okay, as of me recording this, it can't. I'm recording this July 2022. Maybe it's changed. Hopefully it's changed, and Mac users can also use this program, since you need an iPhone to have the best tracking. But I digress. I don't know. I think they're working on it, but maybe you can reach out and ask them. But using an iPhone is going to give you the best tracking because of the camera in the front. And that's why you want to use anything from, I think it's an iPhone X up that you want to use. I have an iPhone XR. But what I did, because I don't really like iPhone, if I'm going to be honest with you. I like using Android. So that's what I was using before. That's what everyone in my family has, which is why we don't have another iPhone laying around or anything. When I needed to get better tracking and stuff, I got an iPhone with my plan. You know, sometimes you can have plans and stuff, and they'll expire and you have to get a new phone or something. That's what I did just to get it. So if you want, you can wait until that, just because you don't want to go and spend a lot of money on some phone that maybe you're not going to use it a lot. I kind of wish Apple would just make a webcam with this technology. They've patented this technology, and it's frustrating because, like, I wish I could just have a camera dedicated with this stuff and just put it on my computer instead of using my phone, because it wears my phone battery out quicker. I find using it, because it's on for so long, it's plugged into your computer. So yeah, I recommend using an iPhone. It's going to give you the best results. With regards to camera placement, what I have done, and this might be effective, especially if you have a webcam, because I know a lot of people will put webcams on top of their computer because that's kind of like where they're supposed to go. What I've done with the phone is, what I do is I attach, and you're gonna have physical videos showing over this of my setup. What I do is have an arm attached to my key light, which we'll talk about lighting in the next part, but it's attached to it so that my phone can be directly in front of my face, and not like the screen's in front of my face. It's that the phone's camera is in front of my face, because it's a camera looking directly at you, and I find that gave me the best results. I used to have this little wonky like dollar store level thing I got on Amazon. It was super cheap, and it was just something to hold my camera, but it was bendy, and my phone would kind of fall. It fell like full blown on my desk once, and I actually scared someone. I was live and they were like, oh my gosh, that scared me. I actually screamed because it fell during the stream. It just fell and slammed on my keyboard, like the camera fell and my model just got frozen, and it was a lot. So get something that's stable. I got this nice arm. It's an Elgato arm. You can get third-party arms. My recommendation is, if you're trying to save and budget, get third-party. I like Elgato because it's just really easy to use. So if you're on a budget, go third party for like something to hold your phone, but make sure it's sturdy, because if your phone is moving around, your model's gonna bounce like this. Mine used to bounce like this, and it's just, I'll see if I can find a stream with it. Any of my earlier streams with this model, you'll see like I would bounce like this because that thing would bounce around and the phone would move. I think mine is about a foot away. I'll do a measurement and see, but I think it's about a foot away, but no more than a foot would I say push it away from your face. Like, make it be relatively close enough to see all your expressions, so that, you know, while you're speaking and stuff, you don't have to worry about, am I too far away? Because right now I'm going to move a little farther away, and you can, I mean, you can see I'm moving farther away, but the actual tracking sometimes can get, actually it's tracking pretty good. Maybe they did an update. It actually wasn't that bad. So actually maybe you can sit more than before when I sat more than a foot away, it was bad, but maybe you can now. But yeah, just keep it relatively closer to your face. Don't put it above, because then it's like, it's going to track from like, it's going to try to track your lower chin and stuff, right? But your chin will be so low if your camera is higher. So mine is just kind of looking directly at me. And so it's getting all my movements, especially when I turn sideways. That helps with getting my movements for my mouth and stuff. If I'm playing a game or something, it just helps out a little bit. So that's it for physical camera and phone placement. I hope that wasn't too long. On to physical lighting and placement of your lighting. I recommend getting a key light for your lighting. Now, I have an Elgato Key Light Air. It's one of their, well, it used to be their smallest key light. Now they have this really small little light. But the Key Light Air for me was perfect. It worked fine. It works with the Steam Deck, or Stream Deck. Oh my gosh. See, those names are too close. The Steam Deck and Stream Deck. With the Stream Deck Elgato makes, to control my lighting, control everything. That's why I got it, because it was ease of access, but it is not the cheapest. It was something I had saved up for a long time ago when I was making content, because I knew I was going to need a light. And I bought this one. But it can be very expensive. So if you're trying to save money, go for third party. You don't have to go with Elgato, but get a key light. I recommend putting the key light right above your face, because you don't want there to be any shadows cast, and I recommend it going right in the middle of your monitor, whether it's one monitor or two monitors. And this is because if your phone is going to be in front of your face, you want your face to be very well lit, and having your light, first of all, be directly behind your phone in front of you is going to cast a shadow from your phone. Having it too low is going to cast shadows on top of your head, and having it above is okay, because if underneath your chin gets a little shadowed, that's not what's being tracked. It's actually your chin line. It actually kind of helps having some shadow there, because it's only tracking the chin. Keep that in mind. Also, if you go third party, something to keep in mind, because I went third party for some lights and they said they had filters on them. And when I used to have them on before I bought this key light, this Elgato key light, when I would have them on, I would have them both on, shooting, like looking at my face. One, I was having issues with shadows because I didn't have it up above my monitors. I had them to the sides. And this is when I was using the Memoji, which was, again, a callback, like a throwback. And I actually had the lights shining so bright, and the diffuser was not made to be shone at a person that close for that long. I would get these really red lines in my eyes because of how long I would sit there for 4-hour streams, and I would end the stream and look in the mirror, and I would have from my tear ducts to the edge of my other edge of my eye, just red lines. And it was from where the lights were. It's because my eyes were irritated. Sometimes this even happens with my right eye still sometimes if I turn the light too bright and I don't realize I've turned it bright. So make sure your key lights are above your phone. Make sure they are not too bright. Make sure they have a diffuser, because otherwise the light will be so strong it's going to hurt your eyes, and we don't want your eyes being hurt. We just want your face lit up, right? So do that. You can go third party, but make sure it was made for something to sit in front of your face. Even look for a streaming key light, that might help you. So I kind of recommend for the light, because it can hurt you, to look for something, you know, maybe not from a third party, but that's your choice, right? You can always get something and try it out. Hopefully you can return it or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was my experience with using third party. It wasn't good. And ever since I got this Elgato light, as long as I make sure it's turned down, it's on a setting now where I just turn it on and it's on its setting. I don't have to do anything. It's good. It works well. It can be on for a lot of hours. It's fine. It doesn't hurt my eyes, because it was made to be pointing at someone directly all the time. The reason that I don't recommend putting the key lights side, like buying two, for example, like you don't really need to for VTubing, is because if you were doing, you'll see streamer setups and stuff, you'll see they'll actually have two. A lot of people even have the key light error, and they'll have two of them. They'll have one on the left and one on the right, and they are physically being shown on a camera. And that's just because it helps with side lighting. It helps it to look better, especially when it's shining on your face. It gives some shadows, but it doesn't really matter, because it's not like the audience is tracking their face, right? You're just looking at someone. As long as it looks comfortable for people to look at, the lighting is fine. But when you're trying to have the phone track your face, the iPhone especially needs a lot of light, and the more light that you can put on your face where there's no shadows, and not more light like turn the light up, I mean where there's less shadows and it can see your face very well, especially straight on, because that's where your phone is, it's going to give you way better results for your tracking. Because like right now, for example, if you had, for example, you could right now might have really good tracking settings in Animaze, and you may not even know it because you have no lighting. If I turn my light off, it's off right now. Oh, you can see because I have Word open and it's bright. So there we go. So now it's trying to track me without any bright lights. Word was open, that's why it was still tracking when I turned the light off. So the lights are off in my room. It's, you know, it's not too dark, but my front face is not being lit up very well. The iPhone registers very dark, and so it can't see my face, so it's having a really hard time. What you're seeing right now is the tracking based off of audio that it's hearing from me. So it's trying to mimic my audio instead of tracking me physically and seeing me, which is what those two buttons were I recommend turning on earlier. They track your audio aside from your physical tracking, and that's why it hearing your audio and seeing your face, having all those trackers on, just makes it way better. So we're gonna turn the light back on. It's back on now, and now you can see me. It's much better. My eyes now have to adjust because I was just sitting in it without the lights on. But yeah, so keep that in mind for your lighting. I'm gonna open my Word document one more time. So yeah, keep all that in mind with your lighting. The placement, the type of lighting you get is important. You might have to experiment with the type of lighting, and you may have to put down a couple bucks, but I think it's worth it to protect your eyes, because especially if you're streaming and you're sitting in front of these lights for a long time, it's not good. It's gonna hurt your eyes. So that's it for that. This brings us to our last part: trial and error with some patience. All of these things are going to take trial and error, from your physical setup, moving things around, if it changes like I've changed mine, from, you know, that's going to bring different issues, from your lip sync settings. You might be okay with them, and then one week you might go in and something just doesn't work, because that happens. Sometimes you open stuff up and it's just not working. It's very annoying. You got to work on it. You got to figure it out. Being a VTuber has a lot more moving parts than just being able to turn on a webcam and make sure your lighting looks good. There's a lot of electronic components and programs that if one's not functioning, it's going to throw everything off. Anything can interrupt your tracking. So making sure you have an environment where things are easy for you to kind of sit and set up and work, and not be too concerned about it. For now, this is everything I've noticed and things that I do to make my tracking look better. And also a big thing to remember, I'll leave you with this last thing, you are going to be the first person to notice something is wrong. You guys may not have noticed all those things I just listed that have happened by videos, or you may have. It's a hit and miss, but a majority may not have noticed. You're gonna notice something wrong, just like how artists will notice something wrong, like something they think is wrong with their art. They'll be like, nope, look at that line, it's wrong. But everyone else is like, I don't see anything, because they don't notice. You're gonna be your worst judge of your setting, so keep that in mind as well. If you are really hating it, just be like, I'm probably gonna be the one noticing this the most, and maybe those 4 other really observant people, you know, but a majority probably won't notice. So keep that in mind. Be nice to yourself. Don't get too mad if stuff isn't working. I hope this helped, and as always, remember to stay safe, hug your loved ones, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye. I'd rather be